Hey everybody, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm a full-time firefighter in New York, and I am plant-based for almost 6 years. I am a multiple Ironman finisher, triathlete, ultra-endurance athlete, and I'm happy to be a guest on the Blessed Girl Show. So tune in and check out a little bit of my ranting and conversation with Sworn about what I've learned in my journey and the importance of health and taking charge of our health and how food plays a role in that, and exercise and sleep and recovery and all the ins and outs of my daily routine and a lot of my journey along the way and what I've learned. So I'm happy to have that conversation with her. So check out the
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Blessed Girls Show. Hope you guys are doing awesome. And today we have someone very special joining in from New York. This person is, of course, 5 times Ironman and 50-mile finisher. He's, of course, a health advocate based out of New York, and he's a fireman. So, isn't it interesting? Let me welcome Kevin Duffy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sworn. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that kind intro.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for making it possible. So I would love to start off, when it comes to your own regime of, having such an incredible history of 5 times Ironman. Were you vegan all the time, or is it like you chose it later on of your own journey when you started doing Ironman?
Yeah, it started in 2015, my plant-based journey. So I had already done my first Ironman in 2014. So this change and transformation happened along the way as I started racing and training and doing triathlon. So I was not plant-based before, and I transitioned over after my first race to look into ways to improve my time and improve my training and get faster and stronger. And my best friend Steve was the one who actually introduced me to this, who is also a fellow Ironman racer and health advocate and triathlete. So I was not completely plant-based for this entire journey. I did one race. My first one was in 2014 in Lake Placid, New York. And I was just eating, my normal old routine, and then training for my next one in 2015. I started transitioning about 2 months before that race and really learning a lot about, how this is beneficial to a lot of things, and racing and exercise and athletics is one of the many benefits.
Yeah. Wow. So was it like a pushover kind of a thing for you, being a vegan, or was it like you were just watching your friend Steve and you were like, this is something I can as well do and it might be good for me?
Yeah, it wasn't so much of a pushover, I'd say. I was very curious from the beginning as to what he was talking about, and he's a very smart guy, and I trust him, and he's very well read and educated, and when he does something, a lot like myself, he goes all in, and he wants to know all the research and the studies and learn from people who have had the benefits and the changes and the experience. So I obviously trusted him and was very, very curious as to what he was talking about and how this was going to work, or how this was going to be beneficial to us. And ironically, leading up to my second Ironman in August of 2015, I was making changes, but I was a little hesitant to completely overhaul my entire routine, which is funny looking back now, because it obviously would have only probably helped my training and helped my time, but it was a small window of about 2 months out where I was leaning more towards plant-based and incorporating more healthy foods. But I was a little nervous to completely change everything because I thought it was going to have a negative effect on my time and my performance. So, there were small portions of meat back then. There was some small dairy. but I was aware and I was like, do I really need this? Is this hurting me or is this helping me? I'm not really sure. I'm still learning. And then it was after that race that I really, then I knew I my training was going to dial back a little bit and I could really focus on how I was feeling and not changing too many things at once, not overwhelming myself, which is a big, is a big
Yeah.
hesitant for,
It's,
a block for
yeah.
a lot of people because you get overwhelmed. There's so much information. There's so much change. It can scare people away. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would love to start with this as how do you train? How do you manage to train? Because you're a fireman and you have to be available most of the emergency situations. So how do you take care of your training?
So my training schedule is very sporadic and all over the place compared to more of a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday work schedule. So our work schedules are constantly changing, but I get most of my training in on my off days. So when I'm not at the firehouse, we do spend anywhere from 10 hours to 34 hours in a shift at the firehouse, but normally it's about a 20, normally it's a 24-hour shift, two or three times a week. And so when we're sleeping there, we eat there, we live there. There
Yeah.
is a gym at the firehouse, so when it is quiet, we can take care of ourselves and you know blow off some steam or work on our work on our
Makes
fitness, which
sense.
is great because
Yeah.
we're there for so long.
Makes
So
sense.
I can get a little bit of training in at the firehouse, but you don't want to train too hard. You don't want to be tired, if in case the bell goes off and we have to run out the door. So it
Yeah.
is, light training and just getting the body moving and staying active and getting your blood pumping. So I take care of a lot of training on my off days. So I'm off today. I did a bike ride before this podcast this morning when I got off of work.
Wow.
I got off at 8 a.m. It's 10:30, 11 a.m. New York time now. So I got home, I got on the bike, and then I'll probably run this afternoon. So
Nice. So
I
you
get
club entire activity, like do you do the swimming as well in the same day, or you would not? You would just club with one of the two of the activities.
Yeah,
How do you
usually
do
if I
that?
do a double day, it's two a day. It's a bike and then a run. I usually save the swimming for a separate day. So I'll work the legs one day and then I'll work my arms the other days.
Yeah.
Normally, sometimes we mix it up. I mix it up, but for the most part,
Okay.
it's legs and arms separate days.
Got it. So was it like you started running during this transition of you want to do Ironman? What did encourage you? How did it start? Like, was it like you were a heavy guy who just got encouraged with this whole journey of being fit, or I mean, what started you with that?
So actually, my younger sister started this whole journey. She did a race about maybe 15 years ago and in the area where we live in New York, in Westchester, and she did a Olympic triathlon. And we went and watched the race, and I was so impressed and excited, and enjoyed watching her and watching all the other people race and finish and cheer them on. So it was a very exciting day. And I think I
Nice.
signed up the following year. Uh, that was 2006 or 2007. So I was doing shorter races once a year, twice a year, just to mix up my training routine. I was a college athlete. I've been a pretty uh, active sports, played a lot of
Okay.
sports growing up,
Okay.
basketball, lacrosse, ice hockey. So I got into this after college to sort of to do something different.
Okay.
And I never really thought I was out of shape until I look back on pictures and I look at back on some of the times of the races I did, and I was clearly out of shape compared to where I am now, which is again a whole different end of the spectrum. But yeah,
Yeah.
I had gained some weight when I got on the fire department back in 2011. I was out of work for a little while. I'd hurt my shoulder, so I wasn't very active, and I was eating, I was eating the wrong stuff. A lot of cheeseburgers, a lot of pizza, drinking beer, And I noticed, looking back at those photos, that's when I had taken a break from triathlon for 2 years, and then I got back into it, starting to lose some weight, starting to do the Olympics. I did some sprint triathlons, and then the first goal was to up that to a half Ironman, which I did in 2013. Was my first big race, was the 70.3, and I did that. I thought that was as far as I was going to go, and a few weeks later, I was ready, to step it up a notch and get into Ironman. So that was 2013. I did my first Ironman in 2014. So as the journey started, I was, I was heavier than I am now. I was still training, kind of not really learning as I go. And asking my friend Steve, because he had hired a coach and he was really into it and learning a lot about how to train properly. So it was learning how to train properly. The missing link was really what we were eating. So that came 2015, my second year into racing, and that was when all of this started to pick up.
So how much do you weigh now?
I weigh about 190 pounds now, 190 to 195 is where my range is. But I probably haven't been under 200, since college, which was 20 years ago, 18 years ago. So yeah, I was always in the 210 to 215, 220 range, and I thought that was sort of a good weight for me. But I've been about 195 and below for the last 6 years.
So is it like there are certain things you are really happy about that because you are a vegan and because you're a triathlete, you have developed as in your character?
Yeah, so it has definitely helped in a lot of ways, and it's given me something to share with other people, right? So my big message is to help other people and teach them what I've learned and what I've found interesting, and the science and the data and the facts behind the studies, that this is really beneficial to a lot of areas of life. So whether it's weight or it's energy or your sleep or your skin or your mood, or you're suffering from some, a lot of chronic illness and heart disease and diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure and cholesterol, all of these things are linked to what we eat and what we do every day. So it definitely has changed my purpose and, in a mission in life to really leave something behind, or leave a message to the world, to that this is can benefit so many things, right? It doesn't have to be one thing. It gets pigeonholed as
But if these are the qualities of you as a character now, these were not there earlier when you were actually not a vegan or you were not a triathlete.
Yeah, the three things that have changed for me that I wouldn't recognize is, my passion and my mission to help other people. I think it's definitely given me purpose, right? I think that's the really underlying message is to help other people. Where I think for myself, through my, after college, through my 20s and my early 30s, you're navigating life and trying to figure out what you want to do in a career and what you want to do in terms of relationships and family, and whether you want to travel or get married or have children. And I think, I can't speak for everybody, but I know there's people out there that are listening that are probably stuck in that sort of confusion and wondering what to do with themselves, or they feel like there's more that they can contribute to society or contribute to their close-knit friends. So that's definitely the biggest thing that's changed for me is having purpose outside of my job, right? My job is to serve my community, and it's a dangerous one, and I love it. But there's more. There's only so much we do at work in terms of helping people, and some days it's a great task and it's a great mission to save someone's house and save someone's life. But on the days off, now today, talking to you, like having the chance to come on your platform and share my message, and to all the listeners, that this is a lot of things wrapped up that I didn't
Yeah.
notice 5 years ago or 6 years ago
Yeah.
when I started this journey. That people would listen and people would be interested or curious as to what I have to say or what other athletes and plant-based enthusiasts and health and wellness advocates have to say. So if you asked me, yeah, 5, 6 years ago, if I'd be doing podcasts and talking about plant-based living and Ironman racing and triathlon, 100% I probably would have laughed and said, you know what, I'm just going to be a fireman and I'm going to, have fun and travel and do all the things. But I think I'm missing the big purpose, right? To
Yeah.
leave a lasting effect and to change society
Yeah.
and to have a strong, bold message that there really is no harmful side effects to this, right? So,
Yes.
screaming it from the
Absolutely.
rooftops and whoever's going to listen and be interested, then hopefully, if this podcast changes one person's mind, then we did a great deed.
Absolutely. Wow. Great. About food, and they attach a lot of emotion to it. And that's the most, I think, difficult aspect to handle when it comes to certain, extreme lifestyle when you choose. And yes, vegan can be extreme. But what I'm trying to say is that has it ever happened that there was a checkpoint and you were like, I'm sure you don't have to tell me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it happens all the time, but there definitely are times where I have to remember why I do this. I'd say it's not very, very often. I think early on in the beginning stages, you're more susceptible to maybe slip and fall. But for myself, yes, like you said, it's a very, very loaded topic, food. There's so much that it's wrapped around in life, and it's really digging up what it's connected to, right? There's a lot of things that food is tied to, whether it's emotions, whether it's trauma, whether it's comfort. We as humans, we eat, every day. If you're lucky enough to eat every day and have that luxury, it is a very, very interesting sort of psychological thing that for myself, I'm more of a, explain it to me and let me understand it. And when it makes sense, I'm convinced, right? So for myself, it was really, it came down to changing the relationship with food, which is a journey for everybody, but it's really digging up what that's tied to. So what are you eating and why are you eating the things that you eat? And when you do sort of turn towards bad habits, what is that masking or what is that providing comfort for? And it's getting to the bottom of that, to the root cause, and really exploring that to understand why humans make the choices they make. So now for me, it's a very simple, I've sort of made that connection that food is life, food is health, food is what's going to provide me energy and my body to function the way it's supposed to, the best way it can until the next meal. So I don't really eat so much to, it's really, I look at it as a life source to just get me to the next time that I'm going to sit down and enjoy a meal. But again, enjoying it with family, enjoying it with friends, and being conscious of that in the moment that a lot of times it's a celebration, it's holidays, there's a lot of these traditions, and you have to understand that, making those choices at the time just because everyone else is doing that isn't a good enough reason to just do what everybody else is doing. That's a great time to educate people in a group setting to say, these are the choices I make because they've benefit my life in so many ways. If you want to discuss that at the time, a lot of the times it's a tough conversation because people are going to be like, oh, what do we have to cook for you, and now you're coming over and now you don't eat any of this stuff, and it's like, well, let me bring something, or let me show you what you can make, or how you can make this differently, or let's have a conversation around why
Yeah.
everybody always says, I'm going to turn 40 this year, and everyone's like, oh my God, you look great. Like, you haven't aged a bit. And it's like, well, I care about myself. I've made that connection that just doing what everybody
Yeah.
else is doing wasn't working for me. And now
Yeah.
it takes a lot of frustration. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of just tuning people out to just stay focused on what's best for you, because a lot of the
Yeah.
time nobody else is really going to take care of us except for us. Unless
Yeah.
you're an infant or a child and you're feeding another human. As an adult, we have to look after ourselves, and we have to make the best decisions for us. And that always comes across as selfish. But at the end of the day, I feed me, and I eat for me because I know it's best for me, and I want to show other people why that's good, how it's good for you, and what it looks like, how simple it is, and help
Yeah.
break down these tough conversations and these stereotypes around it being an elite thing, or you have to have money, and it's like, oh, all I'm doing is
Yeah.
eating rice and beans and
Because
hot sauce.
exactly, exactly. Because I think there is a lot of conversation about that because vegan food is very expensive, or these mock meats are very expensive and everything. So, what do you say? Do you try these mock meats? Do you suggest such kind of a food, or what do you do? What is your usual, I would say, day look like when
Yeah,
it comes to food?
my daily routine is pretty simple. If most people, I try and tell people it's boring, because it's like I used to eat a lot of the same things every day, and now I change that, but I eat a lot of the same things every day. They're just different, right? So it's
Okay.
um, the mock in terms of the mock meats and sort of these new vegan alternatives. I was I was a big fan of them early on, because they're these gateway foods. They're they fill the gap
Yeah.
of hamburgers and hot dogs, and tasting like other things.
Yeah.
And I was I was a fan of those occasionally when I was transitioning, and now I don't really eat them too often, because again, a lot of this stuff is processed. It comes from a factory. We don't. A lot of it is oils and salt and sugar, so they're adding a lot of that flavor to mimic whatever that replacement is, right? So some of these alternative
Yeah.
burgers they're delicious. They taste great. They provide that satisfying taste buds, and they're sort of they're lighting up your brain in those cravings, right, of sugar, oil, and salt, and that's a lot of what we eat, and that those are the foods that are addictive. So learning more about that, I've sort of steered away from them. My daily routine, I have a smoothie almost every morning. My smoothie is mixed, blueberries, banana, raspberries, kale, spinach, a plant-based protein powder, maybe almond milk or oat milk, or just water and ice. Sometimes almond butter for a good fat, or an avocado. All of this stuff in a blender: chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, and blend that up in a
Nice.
big jar. I put it in the mason jar, and it's depending on how hungry I am, I add more stuff. If I'm not that hungry, like this morning I did my bike ride, so I'm gonna have a big smoothie because it's breakfast and it's my recovery shake in one.
Got it.
Lunch. Lunch is going to be for the last three lunches I've had: rice, beans, avocado, peppers and onions, sautéed spinach, hot sauce. Just basically like a taco or a burrito without the meat,
Yeah.
and all the veggies: salsa, hot sauce, some fresh chips on the side. So I've eaten that the last 3 days for lunch, one day out to eat, and 2 days at work, which is great.
Got
I love That's my go-to, is sort of that, like a veggie burrito, or a veggie burrito bowl.
it. Yeah.
And dinner can be a number of things. I'll do just a simple pasta sauce with a gluten-free pasta, and then I'll roast some veggies, whether it's broccoli, asparagus, zucchinis, little garlic and onion. And it's really just adding more plants, it's else, and eating more people always, I'm sure, ask you, aren't you hungry all the time? Aren't you starving? It's like, well, yeah, I'll eat a plate of dinner. And if I'm hungry, I'll just go back and have seconds because I don't need to go eat something different that's going to, quote unquote, fill me up. I'm just going to fill up on the stuff that I know is good for me. So just, again, you might have to eat a little more than if you maybe had that big meat portion on the plate. But really, if you eat a plate of vegetables, you're gonna be full, right?
Yeah,
And if you're hungry,
absolutely.
go back for a little bit more. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's overcomplicating, it's overthinking, and people think they're gonna starve and they're gonna be malnourished and they're gonna collapse from all these deficiencies. And it's like, really, I feel better
Yeah.
because I've avoided all these inflammatory foods which cause all of the sort of low energy, added weight, all of these chronic issues that are
Yeah.
a huge issue around the world, right? So
Absolutely.
to break that stereotype of it being expensive, it really is peasant food, right? As they label it. So it's rice, it's beans, it's veggies, it's fruits, it's nuts and seeds, which isn't really that expensive. The real what you have to look at is why other things are so cheap, right? So if you look at
Exactly.
stuff if it's sold at what its value is, and you think it's expensive, that's really just the cost to produce a bag of organic apples, or that's the cost to produce a bag of organic jasmine white rice. But if you look at a hamburger or a hot dog or a piece of chicken, and you have to wonder why it's less than $1 a pound, and it was raised, it was fed, it was produced, it was processed, it was chopped up, it was put on a truck, it was delivered across the country, it was put on a shelf for a week, a store had to buy it, and they're only selling it for $1 a pound. Like, how many hands is that turned, and it's still that cheap, and they're literally producing this stuff for next to nothing, and it's poisoning us. So
That shared about the post about McDonald's as well, and it was about the same thing that the what we are eating from McDonald's is actually totally rubbish, and we should not be eating
yeah, Dr.
just
Garth
something
Davis
cheap.
posted that the
Yeah,
other day, and he
yeah,
said
that
that the
is
real
yes.
cost of a Happy Meal should be like $15 to $20, but and I put something inflammatory to the body and just sort of sets off a whole list of issues. I would stay away from anything that's treated with pesticides. Roundup and glyphosate are the major causes of a lot of issues in the body on a cellular level. It's breaking down the good bacteria in our body and just causing a host of chronic illness, just adding to the suppression of our natural born immune system. In terms of specific names or ingredients, um, you know, really, if it's in a box or it's in a bag and you're questioning what's in it, then it's probably not that great for you.
Yeah.
I try to shop the perimeter of the supermarkets here in the U.S. in New York, or they say shop the outside. So I do the produce section where everything, as my shirt says, everything started as a seed. So everything that you can
Yeah.
grow or came from a single source, whether it's an apple or a banana or a pear or a pepper, away from the stuff that's roasted and salted and sweetened. So you could get
Exactly.
almonds, or you can get almonds with sugar on them and salt on them, and they've been probably baked in oil. So if you turn it over and it has all these added things, then it's not just almonds. You know, so really learning how to read a label and really learning how food is presented to us to make it seem really exciting and really healthy. So there's a lot of clever ways and stamps and packaging to make things seem organic and healthy and non-GMO. But really, there could be things added in there that aren't that great for us. There usually is a better version of what you might like. So just really paying attention to that helped me just when it comes to food shopping and preparing is it doesn't all have to come in a box or in a bag, and if it's microwavable or it's quickly prepared, then it's probably not that good for you. Take the extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes to cut your food up and put it in a pan and learn to cook. That was a big thing. I wasn't a great cook, but I love to cook now because it's exciting and you make it fun and you learn how to recreate recipes around things that you did enjoy, whether it's hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken or whatever your comfort food is. There's ways to introduce flavors that can get that same meal but in a healthier way. Like I did a mac and cheese last week on my cooking show, which was great, which was carrots and sweet potatoes and cashews and nutritional yeast and a little bit of Dijon mustard and blending that all up and pouring, this orange cheese sauce over my pasta. It's a healthier version. It's obviously not the same as what you're getting out of the box, but it's better for you. So as you eat healthier, your taste buds will change. So that's a big thing going back to, our relationship with food. A lot of it is addiction. And these foods are made and produced this way to make us addicted to it. So we come back to it and we buy more of it. And when you steer away from those, the SOS, the sugar, oil, salt, you learn how those things taste later on when you do try them. So if you can avoid them and you can cook a little bit cleaner and healthier, your body starts to crave the veggies and it starts to crave whole foods because my body craves those. When I eat really, really salty or processed food, it just tastes weird to me. It tastes fake. It's very greasy. And you'll learn that as you go. It's all part of the process of just teaching your body your body wants to be healthy. Your body does not want to be sick, right? Your body is so brilliant and so intelligent. This is like the perfectly designed system to constantly adapt and evolve, but you have to give it the right stuff. And when you give it the right stuff, it's going to respond and it's going to thank you and you're going to feel better.
Absolutely. How do you take care of your protein? So, this is a major concern, I think, when it comes to athletes who want to, transition. Protein is going to be a little challenge because I am a triathlete. I don't want to do vegan. Did you feel anything when you were doing that?
Well, apparently there's no protein in vegan food, so I guess I'm probably going to keel over and die by the end of this conversation from protein deficiency. So I don't know where I get my protein. I must have been deficient for the last 6 years. No, that's the age-old question around a plant-based vegan lifestyle. The answer to that is there is protein in literally everything. So there's all protein starts in plants. So you can get a full amino acid profile. There's 20, I have to look this up. There's 21 or 22 essential amino acids. Our body makes 9 of them, I believe, or our body makes 13 or 14 of them, whatever that number is. The other ones have to come from food sources. So when we ingest the food sources, our body takes the aminos that we make and it takes the aminos from the food and it creates a full amino acid profile to create all the proteins that our body needs to function. Protein is in the main sources. The most dense sources are nuts and seeds, legumes, beans, chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds. A lot of these small foods are really protein dense, so they can be low in calories, they can be low in saturated fat. Plants do not have cholesterol, so cholesterol is only found in animal foods. That was a big thing that I learned that really stood out to me. So if you think about meat or animal meat being a source of protein, they're getting all of their amino acids from the plants that they're fed. So whether it's chickens or cows or pigs, they all eat grass, they eat corn and soy and all these other things, and a lot of that stuff is genetically modified when you talk about big animal farms. So they're ingesting a lot of plant foods, and then we're eating them to get the aminos the amino acid profile that they've produced So really, it's just a third-party source when you could skip the animals and
Exactly.
eat what they're eating. So there is
Exactly.
protein in all sorts of foods. Even like quinoa has a lot of protein, and you wouldn't think rice has protein. Whole grains, and our body can only process about 20 to 30 grams in a meal, depending on your size and your metabolism and your activity level. So I don't really count in a day, but I probably get 30 grams in each meal 3 times a day. So I'm probably getting 90. It's probably too much, but being an athlete, I'm gonna use a lot of that but for your average human, they don't really. For a woman, you need about 40 to 50. For a male, you need about 50 to 60. So again, this is just a word that we fall in love with. It's the first word that comes up when it comes to health. And when you talk about food or you talk about nutrition or athletics, when people ask me where I get my protein, I ask people where they get their vitamins, their minerals, their phytonutrients, their antioxidants, their all these phyto-rich, radical fighting foods. Like, where do you get all
Yeah.
that stuff? And people don't understand that that's the source of life. That's the real base to health, is all these other superfoods that our body is craving. And I tell people to remove that word from their diet. Take the word protein out and don't focus on it, and focus on all the other things on your plate, and your health will change, because we've become so obsessed with that word. It's actually killing us,
Exactly.
sadly.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. So, some of the things you feel that you can do to transition as a vegan from immediate if someone wants to do it.
Things that they can do to transition.
Yeah.
So my advice to any of the listeners who are thinking about it, or who have started, if you can start with one meal a day. So for my old self, I used to eat bacon, egg, and cheeses. I used to eat bagels with cream cheese. For breakfast, I used to eat cereal with cow's milk. If you can switch your breakfast out, right? Do a fruit smoothie once a day instead of what your normal routine is. Use a dairy alternative, milk. Start with that. Start with the small change, so you don't overwhelm yourself, and set yourself up for success. So prepare, right? Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, right? So preparation is key. If you have to set yourself up, you have to put the good food in your house, so you only have those options. And when you look in the cabinets, you're going to eat the stuff, right? So instead of buying the cheats and the snacks, try to replace those with better things. But start with small changes, whether it's your breakfast, your lunch, or your dinner. Try one meal a day, and stick to that. And then as you feel the differences, and you see the changes, and you form good habits that are going to stick, then go to 2 meals a day. For most people, that's an easy way that's not overwhelming. For myself, I did 30 days. I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to throw all the stuff out in my house, and I'm going to restock with all the plant-based alternatives. So if you're that type of listener, and you're that type A, and you really want to challenge yourself, go through your cabinets and your fridge and throw everything out, and start from scratch, and you will be focused on overhauling everything at once. That's a tall task, but I think that's a great start. Is a simple meal replacements, and like we said before, rice and beans with an avocado and some hot sauce. It's my go-to simple $2 lunch a day. A cup of rice, a dollar can of beans, $1 for an avocado here in the U.S., which is crazy, and some hot sauce, and a cup of rice probably costs 25 cents. And just having that, keep it very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I think that's another good starting point for people.
Sure. Well, wonderful. So, I would like to know some of the things you have experienced in your body, or you would feel the difference when it comes to your athletics performance, because you have done 4 already vegan. triathletes, right? So you would completely vegan that point of time. How was that for you? How was your performance? Some of the performance you could feel, in that moment that, yeah, because I am doing this, I think it is because of that.
So what I felt in my racing in my last 6 years, a lot has changed. Obviously, my times definitely got better. My times have improved over an hour from my first triathlon to my most recent ones, even to my second and my third, or that early on years ago. And again, it's a combination. It's training smarter. It's and then eating what I was eating changing. So a combination of those things. But food definitely had a lot to do with that because I have more energy. A lot of people always ask me, don't your knees hurt, or do your hips hurt,
exactly.
or your back or your shoulders? You have these chronic pains, and as I'm pushing 40, I'm starting to learn that these are actually a thing. But for the last 5 years, there was really no chronic issues. So I think the recovery is better. The inflammation, this is a very anti-inflammatory diet, and it's lifestyle, and it keeps all of that soreness to a minimum. So I can train hard. I think the biggest thing in racing is confidence. So knowing I've prepared, knowing I've fueled my body the best way I can, and doing more and more races obviously builds confidence because you know what to expect. But really being in tune with how I'm feeling throughout the day, whether it's a marathon for 3 hours and 15 minutes, or it's an Ironman which takes 10 hours and 45 minutes. It's being really aware of what's going on, and not really guessing like is my body gonna fall apart? Am I gonna cramp up? Am I pushing too hard? So you really learn to dial in how you're feeling in the moment of racing, but also in preparation for that. So knowing I'm doing all the right things has really boosted. Just makes it fun, right? Because now there's less questions, there's less worry. You really have a different mindset and approach to this to enjoy it. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then something needs to change. And to all the listeners, I ran the New York City Marathon in 2019. That was my 6th official marathon race, and that was my fastest time. So
Wow.
30.
How much did you?
38 years old. I started running marathons when I was 32, and my time was 3 hours and 13 minutes and 50.
I ran the New York 2019 as well.
Say again?
I could have met you. I'm saying I ran the 2019 as well.
In New York?
Yes,
oh, no way.
I did that. I've done 4 world majors already. So Boston, Chicago, London, and New York.
Oh, awesome.
I'm left with 2. Thanks to COVID, I'm still left with 2. So,
all right, we'll get there. I've done Boston and I've done Chicago as well. So those are on my...
Yeah, I saw Chicago. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to know that how often you should train. How do you suggest that? What should be your, if you are not that seeing your profession, you would use your weekends or off days. But what about people who want to train, but they don't know what should they start with, because they want to do triathlete or they want to do marathon, but they are not very sure about the whole process of consistent training. So what do you have to say about that?
Sure. If you're looking to get into a marathon, I get asked this question a lot from guys at work and from friends. If you're not a runner at all, the hardest thing for people to do is put their sneakers on. So put your sneakers on and go outside and walk around the block and start there. And then that is your baseline. Or if you have a little bit of athletic background and you have energy and you have some experience, then go out and run 1 mile or 2 miles and start with that and just build a consistent effort, right? And you can't, the big thing is doing too much too fast too often, and that's what leads to injury. So a lot of people think they need to go out and run 13 miles tomorrow because they want to do a marathon in 6 months. You're going to get hurt. Your body's going to shut down. It doesn't know what's going on. So you have to take these baby steps along the way. You need a plan. A great way to start is to either get a coach or you look up a plan or talk to someone who has had experience and really see how, what a plan looks like for a 6 month training period and how you really can start with very, very little and how much it builds over time. So that is one way to start. Is I always advise people in sort of in a coaching mind, do every other day. You don't do too many days in a row because rest days are as important as training days. So if you do 2 miles on Monday and you do 2 miles on Wednesday and you do 3 miles on Friday and then you do an easy 2 miles on Saturday, that's great. And then the next week you take it up a notch. You can do 2 miles, 3 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, and then step it up 3 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. So these little baby steps are gonna, next thing you know, you'll be running 12 miles or 16 miles on your Saturday long training day when you're, a couple months out. So being patient and learning along the way and not really getting ahead of yourself. But again, stretching. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of recovery. So foam rolling, that stuff is the recovery process is just as important as those hard, sort of tough days that you might not be looking forward to. And eating a lot of plants. Eating a lot of plants is going to give you energy. It's going to keep that soreness down. It's going to keep your recovery time down, and your body will adapt. Your body will learn to the routine that you put it through. So you have to give your joints time to adapt. You have to give your muscles and your ligaments time to adjust to your new normal, right? So if you're getting up, if you're a 9 to 5er and you get up at 5 a.m. and you do your 30-minute run, the morning workout is the best way to start the day. I'm just getting back into it because I took time off and I've been sleeping in and I've been pushing my workouts to the afternoon. But there's no better feeling than getting back from a 10-minute run or an hour and a half run, and it's 6:30 in the morning and you shower and you make that delicious smoothie and you go off to work at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and there's so much energy and you're so awake and you got all that done before most of the world is even awake. You can do anything that day. It's the best feeling. So if I'm not a morning person, I hate it. But when I get back and showered, I'm so happy that I got my butt out of bed and I did the workout, because the rest of the day is yours to just, tackle your tasks. And you
get more done.
You're focused. Your endorphins are going. Your energy's up. There's no better way to start the day. But in terms of training, baby steps. Talk to a friend like yourself, someone who has experience and sort of knows what a plan looks like, and stick to that. And you make it work for set your goals, set your expectations, what's realistic, and don't get ahead of yourself, and just train to what you expect and what you think you can accomplish with your work balance and your life balance, and you trying to juggle all those things. It's really a time. You get really good at scheduling, right? When you take on these large tasks and you add in all these hours of training that you don't know where you're going to find time. You get really good at sneaking in a 30-minute run in the middle of a day before a meeting or after a lunch. So.
And I think it's very it's required, because I think the more you have that kind of a balance for yourself, you will be able to channelize your energy well, and you can be able to focus more well in your work or whatever you are trying to achieve out of whatever you are doing. So wonderful point. So I would like to know this as a wonderful. I love this question because books are very favorite or dear to me. And was there a book which changed you as a person, or it all started with, or do you have any go-to book, like your bedside book?
Yes, my favorite book that started this whole journey was where it started from the podcast. So it started from Rich Roll's podcast, who's a pretty well-known plant-based wellness athlete and runner, triathlete, Ironman. So I started with his podcast 6 years ago, and I'm a huge fan, and I listen to lots of it. But reading his book, Finding Ultra, is an amazing story. He just has a great, real life transition of being, sort of in the corporate world and having struggles with alcohol, and really the whole turnaround and how he stepped into becoming an athlete. He was a former college swimmer. So Finding Ultra was a really inspiring book for me. It's raw, it's real, it's someone you feel like you could meet at a coffee shop and talk to him about his journey. Another one.
I did see your post meeting him as well, though, but wishing him on his birthday. So, do you know him personally?
Yeah, I did meet him 2-3 years ago, and I did get to talk to him briefly. He's a great guy. We chatted about, he did sort of recognize my name from an article in the New York Times that had just come out right before I got the chance to meet him. I met him at a book signing for another friend, John Joseph, who is another loud, foul-mouthed, amazing Ironman, plant-based enthusiast.
Yes.
He's a nut, but he's the greatest guy. He's no frills. So, if you have kids in the car and you listen to him, just be careful. But again, he's got a great book. He's got 2 books out now. The PMA Effect, which is awesome. And that's where I met Rich at this. We did sort of a launch for that book. And Rich spoke on his behalf. So John Joseph, PMA Effect, Rich Roll's Finding Ultra, and another book I picked up right at the start of my journey in terms of racing was The Long Run by Matt Long. So Matt Long is a retired FDNY firefighter from Brooklyn. He got run over by a bus in New York City during the New York Transit strike, and it's a journey of his recovery behind just how amazing the human body is, the resiliency, and him have training for. We had identical schedules that year when I started Ironman. So I did the Boston Marathon in 2014 in April. I did Lake Placid Ironman in July 2014, and then I ran the New York City Marathon that year also. He had done the same 3 races in sort of his first year, way back when I think it was in the 90s. And I picked up the book randomly, and just these similar parallels were just, so ironic, but so cool. It gives me chills thinking about it. I had picked the book up off a coffee table, thinking it was about marathon training, but really it was this inspiring book about his road to recovery when he should have been dead. He had, I think, over 50 surgeries.
I would love to get that, yeah.
So that one, those 3 books, I think, are on my shelf. I look at them every day, and, they're just a good reminder that there's people out there who, when we think, I think a lot of humans we get lost in thinking we're the only people who are struggling, or you get wrapped up in your stuff, and the world is, sort of the cards are stacked against you, and it's easy to get down and make excuses and blame the world for all your problems. There's people out there with crazy stories, and they're just out there telling them, and they're real neighbors. They're just regular people next door who had some crazy stuff happen to them, and it's just, it's relative. And just taking that with a grain of salt of what these guys have been through, and how many lives they've changed, and just sort of, I've jumped on board. I'm a bandwagon fan of these guys because they're out doing good things. There's no downside to trying to help people.
Absolutely, yeah. 5 things you feel you are blessed about. You're like, really, this is a blessing.
5 things I'm blessed about.
Yeah.
I'm blessed with a wonderful family. My brother and my sisters, nieces and nephews, and parents. So I'm very blessed to have them in my life. I lost my brother in 9/11, one of my older brothers. So I think that really
Sorry.
pulled us all together
Mm.
20 years ago, and it's really awesome to have a family that you're friends with, right?
Yes.
So we live all over the country, but we stay in touch. We're super tight. So I'm very blessed for family. I'm blessed with an amazing group of friends too. Just a close knit community here where I grew up with. My health, I'm very blessed to have learned what I've learned over the last 5 or 6 years, and
Yeah.
that is something that I don't take for granted because I don't know if that ever would have happened. And for some people, that doesn't happen. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to get people to understand that this should be up there with family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm blessed with a great job. I'm really lucky to be a Yonkers firefighter. I love my job. That's my other family. I spend 2 to 3 days a week with them in the same house, and that's, you get really close with guys. And then my fifth, what I'm blessed with, there's a lot of things coming in 2021. So I'm blessed with things that I know are coming down the pipeline, where in terms of health
Wow.
and happiness and family and work. I think the fifth one will be a combination of all these things: new adventures, new business opportunities, new connections and friends, and opportunities like this to talk to you. There's a lot that I have in the works that isn't out to the world yet, but it's coming soon. So
Absolutely.
sort of a
Wow.
little
I'm sure
teaser
people would
there.
love to hear from you. Yeah.
For
Great.
later this
So,
year, we'll catch up and do a recap maybe.
yeah, definitely. Would love to have that. So I just want to close with one question which I have is, since you are a fireman and you are out there anytime, so has it ever happened because your lifestyle and you got injured or you got something and you got cured faster than your other friends? Anything that sort of any incident you feel is close like that?
In terms of at work, work
Yes.
related, yeah, there's one instance in particular that I break chops with one of the guys that I worked with in the house years ago. But a lot of this ties back to our health, right? So when we go to a fire and we go to we call it a job. When you go to a job and you're all geared up and you have, we're carrying over 100 pounds of equipment on top of, our bunker gear, the tools we're bringing, the hoses we're dragging in. It's easily 100 pounds of equipment. And when you have your oxygen on with our mask on, you're breathing only a limited amount of air. So we have about, it says 45 minutes on the air bottle, but it's really, when you're working at such a high intensity environment, you're really getting about 20 minutes of that bottle because you're breathing so heavily. So being fit, being an endurance athlete, and taking care of your body you're gonna use oxygen more efficiently. So if your body isn't fighting all these radicals and toxins and inflammation on a day-to-day basis, you can be more efficient, right? So I might not be the strongest guy at the job,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna give myself the best chances and give myself the best amount of time while I'm in there to do the work that we need to do. So that definitely is a benefit for sure. So there's big, huge, strong muscle guys. They can do a lot of they can probably lift more weight than me. But for the most part of what our job entails, I'm confident in my strength and my ability, my agility, and my health to use to be aware that we're only on a limited amount of time, and you don't want to get stuck in a place where you're going to run out of air. That's like probably the one looming thing in the back of our minds is, getting turned around or getting lost in a fire, getting and running out of air. So there was an instance where I was, breaking this guy's chops because when you go in as a crew and you all turn your air on, there's an alert that you're getting low on air. So his alert went off first, and when we got outside outside the structure of the building to sort of take a breather and reload our bottles, I had however many minutes left. So I was, it's like this guy telling him, I have 5 or 10 minutes left in this air bottle, and you are already low. So it's just, an easy example of showing how, your health and your fitness is gonna show how well you metabolize the oxygen or use the oxygen in your muscles and your blood. And then again, in terms of what we're exposed to, so in a structure fire, we're exposed to 800 to 900 toxic chemicals in the air. So we do have, all this gear on, and we're all covered up. But a lot of this soot and the smoke and these carcinogens will get, under our equipment and onto our skin. And those things get into our body and into our bloodstream, and your body absorbs all that. So treating your body well to flush that stuff out. So if you give it the right foods and you give it the right activity, and you do sweat, saunas are a big thing now. So all that stuff is going to come out of your pores.
Yeah.
But again, you have to eat right. You have to do the things so your body isn't storing it and fighting off all the other things in your body already. When these new toxins are introduced, you want to give yourself the best chance to flush them out as completely as you can and as fast as you can, so you can, your body can go back to working on what's important instead of being overloaded. So again, cancers are a higher risk on our job. They're 1 to 2 times greater than most occupations. Throat cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, and then especially heart disease is a big thing amongst firefighters, which is again all comes back to lifestyle related. So it's all encompassing for all this stuff. More energy, but you're more efficient. You use your oxygen better. You're stronger. You can go longer. You don't get out of breath as easily. Your body's going to flush the junk out faster. So just it's not perfect. I can't say that it's all it's a perfect cure, but I know what I'm doing is giving myself the best odds.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to put yourself at the best odds to avoid all this stuff. I can't say it's going to avoid it 100% firmly, but I know I'm doing the best I can to put myself way on. So hard to do, but it's like, no, when you understand that this thing spills over into so many aspects of life, that it all comes back to food, right? Everything comes back to what we eat every single day.
Absolutely.
You're feeding disease or you're fighting disease, and it's on your plate every single day.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I think with this we'll just close today, and thank you for a wonderful interaction. I hope and wish you all the good luck, and with your all future races and your work. And let's stay connected, and wish to have you again back and here.
But hopefully, the listeners enjoy it, and I definitely stay in touch and be happy to do it again. But thank you for this opportunity. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.